Hello, good morning. Welcome to Gaming Insight Daily for Thursday, July 3rd, 2025. I'm Steve Saylor. This is your daily show, or sometimes daily show, of gaming news, accessibility news, or updates about my life. I have coffee in my Matrix mug today. And today's episode, if you saw the title or the thumbnail of this, it's not good news. I'm fine. It's you know, everyone's kind of going through a rough time at the moment, but don't worry, like it's okay. But of course, today's news, or yesterday's news as of this recording, is not great, and that's an understatement by saying it's not great. And so I would probably have some housekeeping that I would normally, because there's stuff I want to be able to talk about, but I feel like it's kind of self-serving or just weird and awkward to be able to talk about something I'm promoting or whatever, just to jump into some very negative news. So I'm not going to do that right now. But there was a phrase that I heard yesterday that I think is kind of relevant to yesterday's news. The games industry isn't dying, it's being murdered. And I think that phrase kind of encapsulates essentially what is been happening, or what has been happening in the video game industry for the past several years. And the people who are affected the most are the ones should be affected the least. So if you have not heard the news, this is a news story that I am reading actually from Game Informer. This is written by Brian Shea, friend of the show. Microsoft lays off thousands of employees, cancels Perfect Dark, Everwild, and more Xbox games, including stuff that even happened as of this morning when we're recording. And I'll get to that because this article doesn't cover it, but I'll get to that. Microsoft has laid off thousands of workers across its various divisions in the latest cost-cutting measures taken by the corporation, whose 2024 revenue exceeded $245 billion, a 16% increase over 2023 revenue. Though the costs have impacted several of the company's various divisions, Xbox appears to be hit particularly hard. This represents the fourth time in 18 months that Microsoft Gaming has laid off workers. We continue to implement organizational and workforce changes that are necessary to position the company and teams for success in a dynamic workplace, an Xbox spokesperson said in an official comment provided to Game Informer. Alongside this official statement, Xbox PR confirmed that less than 4% of Microsoft's global workforce was impacted. And you may be thinking, oh, less than 4%. Okay. You know, it's not great, but less than 4% seems right. Right? However, according to Microsoft's official reporting, the company employs 228,000 people worldwide, which means 4% of the global workforce accounts for more than 9,100 people. Yeah, that 4% ain't so small anymore when you see the true number. Xbox PR has confirmed to Game Informer that the gaming division is impacted, but not the majority, and stopped short of providing any additional details. When I requested the percentage of Xbox specific impact, PR could not provide that additional context. However, Variety and several other outlets obtained a memo to Xbox employees from Microsoft Gaming CEO Phil Spencer. Notably, Spencer says, quote, "Our platform, hardware, and game roadmap have never looked stronger. Simply put, we would not be where we are without the time, energy, and creativity of those roles, of those whose roles are impacted." I'm not going to read the full statement because I think that these two sentences pretty much summarize exactly what Phil is saying, and it's not great. It's not great. So I'm going to skip past that. Subsequently, The Verge acquired a memo sent by Xbox President of Game Content and Studios, Matt Booty. In his memo, Booty confirms Xbox is closing down The Initiative, an all-new first-party studio founded by Xbox in 2018 in Santa Monica, California. In 2020, the initiative revealed it was working on a new entry in the Perfect Dark franchise, which is now canceled as a result of this closure. Yeah, so pretty much the new thing of 2025 is we're not just going to lay off people. We're going to literally and shut down games or cancel games. We're literally just going to close studios to cancel games. We've seen so many studio closures just this year alone that essentially, like just to cancel a game. Wonder Woman with at Monolith Studios. We've seen Hi-Fi Rush. Well, actually, that's a different story, and that's a whole other thing in and of itself. I'm blanking on it. I apologize. I've been fighting this headache all morning, so I can't really think about it. But I mean, we've seen studios. Oh yeah, the Black Panther game from EA. The studio that literally was created so that you can make a Black Panther game, that also gets closed. Which now, Booty also confirms that Twycross, England-based Twycross. Oh, okay, I couldn't pronounce it. Twycross, England-based Rare, which company Xbox acquired in 2002, and has worked on titles like Sea of Thieves and Viva Pinata, has been impacted by this round of layoffs, and its new IP Everwild, which was announced in 2019, has also been canceled. And I'm not going to read Matt's statement because nothing's going to change my mind about what they're going to say. According to Bloomberg, Candy Crush developer King, which Xbox acquired in 2023 as part of the blockbuster's $68.7 billion Activision Blizzard King deal, is cutting 10% of its staff, which amounts to around 200 jobs. And ZeniMax, which Xbox acquired in 2021 as part of its $7.5 billion acquisition of Bethesda, suffered losses. According to that same report, a new MMORPG that was in development at ZeniMax Online Studios has also been canceled. Meanwhile, Bloomberg also reports Raven Software, which was acquired as part of the Activision Blizzard King purchase and has worked extensively on recent Call of Duty titles, is also impacted. The Verge also reports that Forza Motorsport developer Turn 10 Studios is also heavily impacted by these cuts, with more than 70 people reportedly laid off. And according to other things I've seen online, that's roughly about 50% of Turn 10 Studios. Microsoft has laid off thousands upon thousands of workers over the last 18 months, including 1,900 employees in January 2024. In May 2024, Xbox closed Arcane Austin, Tango Gameworks, and Alpha Dog Games, and laid off several employees at ZeniMax, all of which were acquired alongside Bethesda in 2021. Our sincerest well wishes go out to all those impacted by the latest round of cuts. And then this was an update from yesterday at 3:51 p.m. Central Time. Aftermath is reporting that Blizzard is also impacted by Wednesday's layoffs, according to an email from Blizzard President Johanna Ferris. That Aftermath viewed, the company is essentially moving Warcraft Rumble, the 2023 free-to-play mobile game, into maintenance/live ops mode. This means that while the game will still be supported, no new content will be likely be produced. According to the email viewed by Aftermath, Ferris reportedly stated that several of the Warcraft Rumble developers are transitioning to new projects, but some were affected by layoffs. Ferris also reportedly mentioned impacts to Blizzard's customer service and marketing departments, according to the report. The number of impacted Blizzard employees could reach as high as 100, with the Overwatch team appearing to escape unscathed this time around. I'm pissed off, y'all. I am severely pissed off. And to add an extra bit of context, so reportedly as of this morning, I'm going to bring up this link here because I did not have it set up, but I'm like, I think it's good to be able to at least say this. So this is posted on Twitter by Romero Games. We have some difficult news to share. Last night, we learned that our publisher has canceled funding for our game along with several other unannounced projects at other studios. This was a strategic decision made at high level within the publisher, well above our visibility or control. We deeply wish there had been anything we could have done to prevent this outcome. This absolutely isn't a reflection of our team's work, performance, or the quality of the project itself. We did every milestone on time, every time, consistently received high praise, and easily passed all our internal gates. We are incredibly proud of the work being done and of the talented team behind it, the best we've worked with. We're currently evaluating next steps and working quickly to support our team. Many of us have worked together for more than a decade, some for over 20 years. It's an extremely difficult day, and we were heartbroken, but it's come to this. If you know of any opportunities or ways you can help our incredible team, please reach out. Thank you to everyone who's offered support and kindness and encouragement during this difficult time. Brenda Romero Games. Brenda, for those who don't know, is the head of Romero Games alongside John Romero, if you recognize that name. And they were working on an FPS game, according to reports, and supposedly, according to reports today, in that Microsoft was that publisher. And they are, it looks like that potentially that Romero Games may even be shut down. That's not, I haven't seen any official confirmation of that. I think even if I go to the Romero Games main Twitter account, it doesn't look like that they've made any announcement of that it's been shut down, including there was a post made by 55 minutes ago, and it's something promoting about FPS Fridays with John Romero. So I don't think that the Romero Games is going to be closed, but we'll see. It could happen at any given moment. Again, I am very, very pissed off. This is the biggest amount of layoffs and cancellations in one single day that I think we've seen in a very long time. And the thing that kind of stands out the most, that is just absolutely tone deaf, is Spencer's statement saying our platform, hardware, and game roadmap have never looked stronger. So if it's never looked stronger, why lay off people of that amount and cancel those projects? Sure, it could be argued that basically that maybe they weren't just sort of hitting expectations internally and stuff like that. There might have been like, it's not working out the way we wanted to. Because that happens. That happens in the gaming industry a lot more than you actually think. There's probably there's many projects you've never heard about that basically just never got to see the light of day because they tried it didn't work, and they basically were canceled it. There are some projects that have been announced, including by Xbox, and they were so early in announcing that when we see these cancellations, it's a surprise. It's a shock because we think that, if it's ready to promote, then it's actually going to happen. They showed gameplay footage of Perfect Dark last year of what this game was going to look like. Sure, we didn't see it this year at the showcase, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it was in trouble. But looks like it was. I don't understand why the default in this industry is to just lay off people. And I've talked about this many times before. I mean, the most common story I talk about on this channel is mostly layoffs. And there's nothing more I could be able to say that I haven't said before. But it baffles my mind that leadership decisions, it causes basically causes these layoffs. That's because of leadership mistakes. Because if you look at if you probably look at all of those layoffs, every single person that was affected by these layoffs yesterday, none of them deserved it. You could argue, there might have been some redundancies here and there, but because that does happen whenever you have a large acquisition and a large merger between different companies. That happens, and it's not great. It's not ideal. It sucks across the board, but that could be easily explained. It's consolidation. It sucks. Okay, hopefully they can be able to find another job somewhere else. But to see like that stuff is like usually middle management type stuff. It's like, producers here and there, or folks in PR side of things, or HR, because some of them are like, they may one company may have a better sort of PR, marketing, or HR department than others, or there's stuff that basically that there are jobs that are just not necessarily needed anymore, and again, they are redundant. So I understand that. Again, it sucks. I never want to see that happen, but it happens. But this is beyond just redundancy. This is full on just trying to cut corners, quote unquote, and save money, quote unquote, because if you, or at least give more money to Microsoft shareholders, which it looks like, according to, from what I saw just like yesterday, Microsoft basically had some of the like an extreme high in their stock prices. Let me check back a base. Yeah, like it went from basically at sharing at $491.51 yesterday to today at $495, which is, you know, it's increased by about 4%, which is not you know, a huge amount, but it's a big, and like I'll show you, like you can see it's a big enough jump. Let me see. Hold on. Sorry, I switched over to the wrong scene. So you can see here. Look where my mouse thing is. That's as of yesterday. $491.05. Look at the jump from yesterday at 7:30 p.m. to 9:52 a.m. This was basically as of right now, literally, like this very minute. That's all you need to know as to why these layoffs had to happen. This should show you. Look, they have not recovered as of like July 1st, but let's go back even 6 months. Look at the increase. They have not had a downturn since Monday, April 21st of this year at $359. But let's just even go like year to date. Look, it's still just as high. Look, it's even just as high. Look, April 2025. That's the lowest it got, and now it's basically back up like a huge amount. You can see exactly why. Just to look for 5 years. Look at this. This is Microsoft. This is Microsoft's own stock. Look at the huge jump. This tells you exactly there's no other excuses or anything like that at all about this. Oh, it was redundancies. We need to be a little bit more efficient. What have you? No, it was exactly what the penny pinchers and the shareholders wanted, so that they can be able to basically, so they can increase their profit share and increase their stock prices. Now, granted, yes, Xbox is a subsidiary within Microsoft. It's not its own separate company. They are at the whim of basically of Microsoft and leadership as well. Even though they're like, again, I've talked about this before. Even though that Xbox is a part of Microsoft, if Microsoft decided to sell off Xbox, it's not really a huge drop in the bucket for them as far as like losing price or cost or profit is involved, because they make a lot more money on other things. Xbox is not exactly the money maker within Microsoft. So, but it just, redundancies, I can logically understand. Emotionally, I hate it, but I can logically understand. But see, studio closures, game cancellations. It's just, it baffles me. I've had personal friends who were affected yesterday because of those layoffs. I'm not going to say from where, just to kind of keep their privacy intact. But I've had personal friends that have lost their jobs yesterday because of this. This is a shame on Xbox. I am sorry. Like, you know, I've said before, sometimes I can be, like, even when I'm trying to talk about like the big, larger context of things, I generally can, like I've said before, I'm not an Xbox apologist, but there's times I can applaud at least sometimes what Xbox is doing, because I do think that there are certain things that they are doing that I hope and I believe in, that could be the future of the industry, to basically be sustainable and good for not only gamers but for the developers of those games. And but there is nothing to justify the reason why layoffs need to happen. Why is layoffs is the default of this entire industry? Just broadening out to Microsoft and just in general, 15,000 people have been laid off within the past year by Microsoft. 15,000. Oh well, Steve, it's only out of 228,000. That's maybe that's only about like maybe 8% of the company. I'm like, that's still 15,000 people that their lives, their families, their entire careers have all been uprooted and destroyed. And some even offered like a pittance of a severance just to kind of kept them by. But this is not to say like like you may like when you see these large amount of numbers, it's hard to be able to kind of sort of like see the human side of it because it's just a lot of humans being affected. But let's just think about it from like a family, like someone who is basically the breadwinner of a family. She's basically working full time at a studio, working on games that she loves, and she has a partner and some kids, and they live in an area where they have to stay at like near a studio. So that's like Seattle, San Francisco, or LA, and so let's just say Seattle, like close to Microsoft. So she's in Seattle. Seattle's not exactly cheap. It is expensive to live. So, and all of a sudden, she, without any fault to her own, had nothing to do with her own job performance. She was exceeding at her own job. She was doing extremely well, and then to basically get into a meeting or a Slack meeting saying, "Sorry, we're gonna have to lay you off." And now she's the only one who's basically bringing in the money. She's only got like maybe a few months of severance to last. She can't talk about really anything that's been happening in the studio because generally those layoffs include NDAs where they can't talk bad about what happened. So she basically can't say anything, but she has to basically post on socials to say, "Hey, that I got laid off," or then just polishing up her LinkedIn resume real quick and saying, "Hey, if anyone's looking for work." And then what happens? Like a few months later, she might have to do a GoFundMe because she can't afford to be able to pay rent or buy food for her kids that they desperately need. They can't even afford the lunch money for their kids going to school because they live in an expensive city that they have to pay for that. And what happens if all of a sudden, oh no, one of their kids breaks their arm? That's another medical insurance cost that's going to like drive up the cost for that. Oh, her car breaks down. Oh, now she has to basically get that something replaced in the car. That's also going to cost money that she doesn't have. That's just one hypothetical scenario of just one person, but now has affected at least minimum with the family at least 3, 4, 5 lives. It goes beyond just affecting one person. Oh yeah, like here's the thing for me. If I get laid off from a job, the only person who's supporting me is me. I don't have a family. I don't have a partner. I'm living on my own. That's it. Like, so I only have myself to basically to tend for. But there are so many people who basically had to get whatever job they could be able to get because the industry has been volatile for the past couple of years. So they had to basically, one of the main only job offers is maybe this hypothetical woman of 5 has had to be able to get is in Seattle, and they had to uproot their entire lives to move to Seattle because, return to office is also a thing, and they can't have to be close. Remote work is not available anymore. So she has to go close to a studio, and she has to live close to a studio so she can be able to spend, well, maybe 3 days in the office, but 2 days you can do from home. And but she's still having to pay like an exorbitant amount of mortgage that she basically just locked in for already a couple years. It's just ridiculous. Sometimes even less than that. I even had some friends in the recent years of layoffs that they got laid off from one studio, got hired, and thankfully got hired from basically like 2-3 months later at another studio to only have them be laid off a few months later. Like that within that short period of time frame, within the same year, being laid off twice. It's ridiculous. And it goes back to what I said at the beginning of this video. The video game industry isn't dying because that implies, outside factors that are out of people's control, that it's dying of natural causes. No, it is being murdered. We're already past, I think probably at this point, over the 50,000 people that have been laid off just in this industry in the past 2 to 3 years now. that are trying to find jobs in a market where studios are at hiring freezes. They can't hire any more people, or they're having to consolidate multiple jobs into one person's job just to kind of keep the studio afloat, or to be able to at least they're not willing to spend anything for any money on a head count, so they basically just force everything onto one person to be able to do the job of 5 people. And that's their efficiency. That's their cost of efficiency. Oh, they're trying to be efficient, huh? They're trying to be able to make the studio or the company a little bit more nimble, so we can be able to be a little bit more efficient and quick reacting to the industry. Blah 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 bullshit. And all you basically done is just lay off people from jobs that are desperately needed, and then they're not being backfilled, those jobs, so they have to basically get put onto other people's because the work still needs to get done. It's ridiculous. I am so fucking mad. And I opted not to read Phil Spencer's statement and Matt Booty's statement because the one slice of I'll give the benefit of the doubt, they were going to be damned if they said anything, or they damned if they were going to be not, if they didn't say anything. If they didn't say anything, people were going to be upset, being like, why is Phil not saying anything? Why, like, well, this is kind of cowardice. You should, you should at least say something. And now the fact that, but he did. And like that line, that specific line, our platform, hardware, and game roadmap have never looked stronger, is so tone deaf. And I'll make no qualms about it. I won't hide anything. I have met and have had conversations with multiple times with Phil Spencer. We like, he's even interviewed me for a conference at one point. Interviewed me specifically for an internal Microsoft conference. We've had many conversations. We've said, like, we are friendly to each other. But I have no empathy right now for that statement. Sure, granted, he may have been forced to be able to say something like that to try to assuade shareholders. Maybe that was why that line was put in there. And I would be willing to give the benefit of the doubt that probably Phil did not even want to say that, or even say what he said in that statement. But it is like, that statement was extremely tone deaf. That was PR speak. That was not. To me, I fully believe that's not Phil speaking. That's PR speak. That's PR Phil. That's not actual Phil. But again, I'm not apologizing for Phil in any way, shape, or form. It's just bad all around. And that statement, that did not go over. That's so tone deaf. I know so many people at Xbox. I know so many people at Microsoft. And I love what they do. I think that there are definitely people there that care about the thing that we all like, which is games. I even saw a post on Blue Sky that basically that Microsoft is laying off people for making products that people actually want. No one wants Copilot. No one wants AI being used for atrocities across the world. No one wants Microsoft Teams, but people want Perfect Dark. And Microsoft is basically losing a part of Xbox's soul, if you think about it. And one of the main things that actually people want to buy from Microsoft. I don't know. I'm baffled. I am exhausted. I am stressed. Because it just means that there's more, that now the job market is the most competitive it's ever been. And that's not a good thing. That's basically just, it's like almost like kind of, we're literally kind of almost in a Great Depression like moment for video games, in that basically there are like hundreds, if not thousands of people trying to be able to get the same job. We're pretty much like, there were stories in the Great Depression where there would be people, like hundreds of people lining up outside a factory just hoping that they could be management could be able to bring in some day workers just to be able to kind of get the work done, because there was no jobs. They couldn't hire anybody permanently, so they had to be they can only bring in day people at an extremely low discounted price. We're pretty much almost at that point, because if you think about it, a lot of jobs are going contract. They're becoming the day workers. We are basically at a point right now. We're just almost at a point, if not, we've already reached it. The great crash of the video game industry right now, and even when it's at its most profitable. I think that the difference between the video game industry right now versus the Great Depression was that everybody suffered, including people at the top. But right now, the only people that are actually doing well are people at the top, and the people who are suffering the most are the ones who deserve it the least because of leadership mistakes. You could put this all squarely on Phil. You could put this all squarely on Sarah. You can even put this all squarely on Satya Nadella. But whatever is happening at Xbox or Microsoft leadership needs to change. I'm not saying that people need to go. I'm not saying that being let go. I mean, yeah, I think probably people would want to be able to see Phil Spencer go or Satya Nadella step down, whatever. But they're probably not, unless they were going to retire. There was a rumored story that Phil was going to retire relatively soon, and apparently Microsoft is saying that's not the case. But who knows what Phil's going to do? Phil's going to do what Phil's going to do. I don't know what's going to fix this. It's beyond my capabilities. I mean, even just for my own personal thing, this is now. I was going to say something, but I probably shouldn't. But this is also these layoffs have. I'll just say this: these layoffs have also affected me personally. Not just only because of friends being let go as well, but just it has affected me personally. And that's all I'll say about that. This is shameful. This is a black spot on the industry, and Microsoft should be ashamed. Because if this was just Xbox, yes, then 100% the blame could be put on Phil and Sarah and Matt and the rest of the leadership C-suite team of Microsoft Gaming. But this is a Microsoft layoffs of 9,000 people. And definitely a chunk of it has been the Xbox gaming division, but this is squarely on Microsoft's Microsoft's blame. And again, we just saw exactly why they did it, so they can raise their share prices, so they can make more money at the expense of its people. We're pretty much at the point historically where the phrase of "let them eat cake." If you have no idea what that means, if you're kind of a little bit too young maybe to remember that from history class, go look up the French Revolution or the phrase "let them eat cake" meaning, and you'll find out why. We're pretty much at that point. I don't know. What are your thoughts of this whole thing? I'd love to be able to know. Let me know in the comment section down below. I hate doing these kind of stories. I hate doing these kind of videos. I really do. I don't want to be talking about negative in the industry. I want to talk about the good things. Like literally just this morning, Helldivers 2 is going to be coming to Xbox. Like, Helldivers 2 is literally going to be coming to Xbox. That's a huge deal. A PlayStation game coming to PlayStation exclusive game coming to a rival platform. That is huge news, and I want to be talking about how that's a big deal. That is all a great, amazing thing for games. I love that. It's going to expand to a new audience. And yes, I know that basically it's not specifically a full-on first-party PlayStation studio, but it is definitely one that has been PlayStation exclusive. To see this coming to now PlayStation's jumping into the multi-platform bandwagon beyond just PC. That is huge. But I can't talk about that because of this. Anyway, again, let me know in the comment section down below what you think, because I think I've said all I could say on this topic. Yeah, that's going to be it for me today. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And Let's be good to each other, okay? All right. Take care. Have a good day. Bye-bye.